It's 2 in the morning. The rest of the world has surrendered to the night. The streets are empty, the screens are dark, and the silence is supposed to be a sanctuary. But for you, the silence is loud. It vibrates with the things you didn't say today and the things you have to do tomorrow. You're lying there staring at the ceiling, feeling a weight on your chest that has no physical name. You haven't run a marathon. You aren't sick in the traditional sense. If someone asked how you were today, you probably said, "I'm fine." And you meant it. You were productive. You checked the boxes, you held it together. You made sure everyone else was okay. So why does it feel like your soul is bruised? Why does every muscle feel braced for a collision that never happened? Welcome back to the Midnight Station. Tonight, we are exploring the invisible load, the heavy, unspoken price of being good at everything. If you notice every shift in a friend's voice, remember every deadline, and carry the hidden tensions in a room, this is for you. We will look at the neuroscience of fatigue, the origins of hyper-responsibility, the neural cost of hypervigilance, and the path back to yourself. By the end, we will unpack the weight piece by piece and find a way to let you finally rest. Let's talk about what is happening inside your mind during a normal day. Psychology separates physical labor, cognitive labor, and emotional labor. For most people, a task is simply a task. They wash the dishes and the dishes are clean. They send an email and the email is sent. But for a high-functioning overthinker, no task is ever only a task. Every action carries a secondary program running in the background. Think of your brain like a high-end computer. Most people have 1 or 2 apps open. You have 50 tabs. A system update is pending. A security firewall is scanning for threats, social cues, and subtle changes in everyone's mood. This is the background scan. When you enter a room, your mind notices who seems stressed, whether the lighting is making everyone irritable, whether someone is waiting for a reply, and how to be helpful without becoming a burden. Your prefrontal cortex is making constant decisions. Scientists call this decision fatigue. But for you, it feels like ordinary life. You have done it so long you assume everyone does it. They don't. Most people are not monitoring the room 3 steps ahead. They are simply being. Because you are capable, you have taken on the management of the world's emotions. And the battery still drains. When you finally reach the pillow, your body is exhausted, but the background programs are still closing tabs and solving problems that were never yours. To understand why this becomes a high RPM problem, we have to talk about the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. When you carry the invisible load, that alarm can become sensitive, almost hair trigger. This is hypervigilance. It is not weakness. It can be a learned survival skill. You learned that if you stayed ahead of things, you could prevent disaster. If you anticipated a boss's mood, you could avoid conflict. If you anticipated a partner's sadness, you could fix it before it became a fight. But hypervigilance has a neural cost. It can keep stress responses active, leaving you tired and wired at the same time. You may be physically collapsing while your thoughts race. Imagine driving at 70 miles per hour with the parking brake engaged. The engine is screaming, but you keep moving because you are high functioning. You can work through the smoke. Eventually, though, the smoke becomes fire. The exhaustion is not only a lack of sleep, it is a lack of neural safety. Your brain does not feel safe enough to shut down because it believes that if it stops watching the gate, something will go wrong. You have become the guard who is afraid to sleep because you do not trust anyone else to hold the watch. Tonight, you do not need to watch the gate. You can let the alarm soften. You can let the body learn that this room is quiet and that quiet is allowed. To solve this, we have to look back. Nobody is born with an invisible load. We learn to carry it. Think back to your younger self. Were you the easy child? The one who did not cause trouble? The one who got good grades so your parents had one less thing to worry about? Many high-functioning adults learned early that their value was tied to their lack of needs. You saw stress around you and decided quietly that you would be the one who needed nothing. You became the little adult, By being observant, helpful, and quiet about your struggles, you helped maintain peace. You were praised for maturity and responsibility, but that praise taught your nervous system that love equals utility. As long as you were useful, you were safe. As long as you held everything together, nobody could leave and nothing could go wrong. 20 or 30 years later, you may still be playing that role. The child who once managed a small world is now trying to stabilize an entire life. You became a human doing instead of a human being, and the part of you asking for rest is the child who wants to hear. It is not your job to fix this. You can play. You can be. You are loved for who you are, not only for what you do. There is a dark side to being the capable one. It is the cost of competence paradox. The better you are at handling things, the more things people give you to handle. Because you do not complain, people assume it is easy. Because you always have the answer, people stop searching for answers themselves. At work, in your family, and in your friendships, you may have trained people to rely on your invisible load. You became the person who just gets it done. But the cost is isolation. High-functioning people can be the loneliest people in a room because they built a wall of competence around themselves. You convinced the world you do not need help, and eventually people stopped offering it. When was the last time someone truly looked at you and said, "I can see you are carrying a lot. Let me take some of that"? If it happened, you might still say, "No, I'm fine. I've got it." That sentence can become the lock on your cage. You may feel like admitting exhaustion means failure. But ask yourself, if everything falls apart when you stop holding it, was it ever stable? Are you a pillar of a building, or are you holding up a ghost? You are allowed to be supported. You are allowed to let someone else carry a piece. Now we will perform a Stoic Inventory. Think of everything you are carrying. The first pile contains what you can control: your breath, your reactions, the time you go to bed, and the choices you make next. The second pile contains what you can influence but not control: your career, your reputation, and the way you communicate. These require effort, but the outcome is never entirely yours. The third pile contains what you cannot control: other people's moods, the past, traffic, and the what-ifs of tomorrow. Much of your exhaustion comes from trying to use your will on the third pile. You're trying to manage other people's happiness so you can feel safe. Stoicism is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming efficient. Carrying someone else's rock does not make their walk easier. It only makes both of you slower. Place each responsibility in its proper pile. Keep what belongs to you. Release what does not. You do not have to solve every possible future before you are allowed to sleep. You only need to meet this breath, this room, and this moment. It is time for the midnight ritual. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. Feel the bed beneath you. Feel the weight of your body. Imagine you are holding a stack of books. Each book represents a responsibility. One book is your job. One is your finances. Then look at the others. One is your sister's happiness. One is your friend's relationship problems. One is the way your coworker thinks about you. One is a mistake from 5 years ago that you are still trying to correct in your mind. Your arms are shaking. Your chest is tight. Imagine a large wooden table in front of you. One by one, we put the books down. Put down the book of other people's opinions. It never belonged to you. Put down the book of anticipating the future. You cannot solve a Tuesday that has not happened. Put down the book of the strong friend. Now look at your hands. They are empty. They may feel light or restless. Tell your brain, we are off duty. When a guard finishes a shift, they request to be relieved. Tonight, I am relieving you of your post. You have stood watch over everyone else's peace long enough. You are officially off duty. The world will not stop because you sleep. The people you love will not disappear because you did not check on them for 8 hours. This time, right now, is your sanctuary. In daylight, you are a worker, a friend, a partner, a problem solver. But in the dark, you are simply a soul. You do not have to be high functioning here. You can be low functioning. You can be barely functioning. There is no audience. There are no boxes to check. You are enough even when you are doing nothing. You are worthy of love even when you are not useful. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be not okay. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Let the tension in your jaw dissolve. Let the space between your eyebrows soften. Let your shoulders sink deeper into the mattress. You are safe. You are relieved of your duties. The midnight station is closed for the night, and so is your mind. The weight is on the table. Leave it there. It can wait for the sun. Rest now. You have done more than enough. Good night.